You ever heard the saying, winners focus on winning and losers focus on winners? Well, that's the story of AJ and Darren. AJ and Darren had been boys since they were kids. You never saw one without seeing the other. AJ was always the more popular of the two. He was a star basketball player, always had on the best clothes, and the girls always wanted him because he was fine. Don't get me wrong, Darren was no bum. He had nice clothes and got some attention from girls too. But you know how they say it's levels to this? Let's just say AJ was on a different level, and nobody knew this more than Darren. Darren was always in this secret competition with AJ that AJ never seemed to notice. Whatever AJ had, Darren tried his best to get the same thing. He always thought, since AJ got this, I have to go get something better. But AJ was never jealous and tried to compete with Darren because they were boys, and he was always happy when something great happened for Darren. This continued all the way into their adulthood. When AJ got married, Darren got married, but his wife left him after 2 years. When AJ got a new higher paying job, Darren went to go get a new higher paying job, but he ended up hating his new job. I think you can tell where I'm going with this, but just keep listening. When AJ finally was able to buy his dream home, what did Darren do? You guessed it. He went to go buy his dream home too. Now you would have thought that Darren would have learned by now that the competition that he was in with AJ wasn't working, because he was never happy after he tried to do the same things as AJ. But he did it. So he bought his dream home, and calling it nice would be an understatement. His house had a theater, a full basketball court, a bowling alley, and a pool. Darren was living like a king, but there was one problem. He was miserable. He couldn't understand why, since he had everything he could ever want. He had money, nice cars, he lived in a mansion, but something was missing. Even though he had a big house, it was cold and empty. And when he looked at AJ's home life, it was warm and full of life and joy, since AJ was married and had some kids. And that brings me to the moral of this story. You still losing. Don't get caught up in trying to compete with somebody else's life. What's for you is for you. When you try to live someone else's life, you will never be truly happy. So focus on what's meant for you. And if you're like AJ, and you notice some friends, notice my air quotes, trying to keep up with every move you make and trying to compete with you, you have to let them go, because you can't be friends with somebody who is always trying to outdo you in everything. Thank you for spending time with me, and see you next time on Moral of the Story.